Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
Thank you for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. I am very grateful for all of the people that I interview on this show. I know that everyone has some lesson and strikes a chord in at least one person. Today, I'm especially happy to share my guest with you. And as I begin this interview, you will understand my excitement and my enthusiasm. He is Dr. Mak Jawadekar, Ph.D. He worked at Pfizer for 28 years. His recent position was the Director of Portfolio Management. In 2020, he met with Vice President Pence, head of the COVID-19 task force at the time. He accompanied the former President George Bush in 2006 to India. He accompanied presidents of the Pfizer Corporation, of the Research and Development divisions to India twice. He is currently an independent pharma professional. And I could go on sharing his accomplishments, but I want you to hear from him. So that's where I'll leave it for now as I welcome him to my show. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you, Jennylyn. Thank you for inviting me on this show. And, I heard so many good things about your show. And when you contacted me, I said, sure, absolutely. I will find time to do this. And it's an honor. So thank you.
Well, it's an honor for me to spend time with you because you are someone, like many of the other people I've interviewed, that have added tremendous value to the world. And I thank you for that. All of your hard work, along with your team members at Pfizer, have played a great role and is playing a great role in saving lives, especially now. And I am someone who was a recipient of the Pfizer vaccine.
That's good.
So let's start there. So in 2020, you met with Vice President Pence, at that time, Vice President Pence, because you were involved in working on the vaccine that I currently have in my body.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've been involved with the pharmaceutical research for many, many years since I got my doctorate in pharmaceutics. Just to give you my little bit of a background, you mentioned it in your monologue initially, but just to make more what I would call clarity on this. I got my PhD in pharmaceutics from the University of Minnesota, and while I was doing my PhD, Pfizer essentially had come there to recruit people, and they said, we want you, and I was honored to be invited by Pfizer to join them back in 1982. So that's when I started with Pfizer. And again, I was excited to work at Pfizer because I got a research scientist job, which involved, doing the formulations for lots and lots of drugs. Because over my 28 years of work at Pfizer, absolutely many things were being worked upon, and my contribution to Pfizer was working on the formulation of Zoloft.
Right. Which everybody knows.
Zithromax was another one where I worked on the formulation, and then also I got to work on some life cycle management products, which included Viagra and diflucan, which is an antifungal. So
familiar with them all.
So I got involved in that, and then I was involved in the integration of these companies that Pfizer ended up buying. So Warner Lambert, followed by Pharmacy Upjohn, followed by Wyeth. So I was involved in those integrations of those activities, and while I was doing that, I was still part of the Pfizer research team, involved in managing new product development as well as aspects of what we call, managing even the external filings for Pfizer Japan, for example. I used to go to Japan 4 times a year, and I was managing some of their CMC activities in what Pfizer wanted to do in Japan. So all these drugs that I got to work on in the US, we introduced those drugs in Japan, and we had to make sure, everything that the Japanese regulatory body needs, we had all the work done prior to our filing the dossier in Japan. So I was involved in that. So that gave me lots of exposure, and then because of the acquisition of Wyeth, the vaccines business came to Pfizer. And otherwise, before that, Pfizer was not into vaccines. It was all because of Wyeth acquisition that Pfizer got into vaccine. And from there on, Pfizer did the deal with BioNTech, which is the German company, and essentially they were the developers of the technology for mRNA, and then Pfizer adopted the technology and helped develop, doing all the clinical studies and everything that was needed. And Pfizer wanted to do it with Pfizer's own funding, and they didn't want any governmental help and all that. So that's what happened. And then for my contributions, I mean, I retired from Pfizer after 28 years, and then I have been, since 2010, I have been working with many companies that includes Pfizer externally. So I'm not a Pfizer employee anymore, but I work from outside and help them with stuff. So that's, I just wanted to get the clarity up to you so that people don't mistake me that I'm a Pfizer employee right now. So just wanted to, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I know you're not currently working for Pfizer, and I'm going to run this by you because I'm sure you've heard. There are a large percentage of Americans that I know of, because I live here, who are afraid of taking this vaccine. There's so much, controversy and so much crazy beliefs that this vaccine is going to kill us because it was made too fast. And as an expert and someone who has such a good background in pharmaceuticals and who's worked with Pfizer for as long as you have, can you shed light on this concern that people have, that within the next 2 years, all of us who have taken it are going to die?
No, I think that's all. Media sometimes creates, these misimpressions and misinformation, and I think science ultimately wins, and I know the science. I studied it to its totality and understood it as I understood it, and mRNA is a novel technology, and it's not only going to help create new vaccines, but it will also create new drugs, which will be eventually used for oncology or the cancer type therapies. So,
right.
So I think first of all, that notion of people going to get negatively affected is totally wrong, and the science is so clear. And you have seen the efficacy rates, over 95, 96%, and those kinds of efficacy rates you wouldn't get if it was not effective enough. So I think that's number one. Number two, it has got so much of a, so many people have taken the vaccine to date, and if you looked at that, there is always going to be a Gaussian distribution of people feeling good, people having no effect at all. But then there are certain level of people who have some pre-existing conditions and some comorbidities, we call it, that can have some impact in terms of their, as soon as they take it, they may feel sick, or they may. So those, what I call side effects, are very normal to have. Only people who have had, let's say, organ transplant, or who are immune compromised, or who are in that category where they are very sensitive to certain elements which are present in the vaccine and which cannot. So for those, you have to really, make sure that you are not falling into that zone of people.
Right.
As long as you take care of that, I think 98% of the people, will have a positive effect. And those 2%, why I call 2%, because of comorbidities or some other things already present in people that can have impact. I mean, I don't even want to call it negative impact. It will have an impact to cause some side effects. So for that, you have to use your own judgment, and you may have to contact your own physician to make sure you are okay to take vaccines, especially mRNA, or for that matter, the conventional adenovirus vaccine, which is created out of the virus itself, whereas this is the thread or the protein that is extracted, which is the messenger RNA protein, which body thinks it is a virus attacking you, and they creates antibodies. So I think I can 100% say with my science background that one should not even feel that it has got to do with any side, I mean, any negative effect of this.
Thank you. I had to ask you that because it's a conversation I have and have had as recent as yesterday. And I think the concern for most people is they claim that vaccines normally take 10 years before they're approved by the FDA. And this vaccine feels like it was approved even before the year was complete. And that was the concern that people have, or that is the concern that a lot of people have. So thank you for that clarification. So you've done some phenomenal things in your career, well, during your career while you were at Pfizer. For example, you took former President Bush to India in 2005. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, this was, something that, President wanted to travel to India, and obviously, some of the people that I was part of what they call then was the AUSIP, which is the Alliance for US India Businesses. So I was part of that, and then when I met with President Bush, he essentially said, "Oh, what do you do?" I said, "I work at Pfizer," and he said, "Oh, okay, I'm going to go to India, and maybe you can be a part of this." So that's how he ended up inviting me, and I mean, my research experience has been at the bench, so I really was with my white coat and with all this stuff. I enjoyed working at the bench level, and then I had a chance to lead lots of researchers within Pfizer who were developing some novel therapies, novel drug delivery systems, novel technologies, novel diagnostics, you name it. And it was all about innovation. So innovation is something that I enjoy very much. And Pfizer, I mean, they invited me to give a lecture only about 3 months ago. It was March the 11th. I gave a keynote address. It was a virtual keynote, obviously, 3 months ago. And at Pfizer, I gave it to the legal division of Pfizer globally. So it was attended by many people from Pfizer, and I spoke about innovation. So I spoke because legal division is part of our headquarters, and they wanted to know from a researcher like me, who is now external, but had almost 28 and a half years at Pfizer. And they wanted to know from me my impression now from outside as to what I thought about innovation and why it is so important. So they invited me as an external speaker, and they also invited Scott Kelly, who is an astronaut, as an external speaker. So we were invited to this, and I was thrilled to be part of that. So,
that is so exciting. Congratulations.
no, thank you.
If anyone watching this interview would like to access that particular interview, where can they find it?
It was for internal Pfizer usage, but I do have the PDF that I presented, so that I can make it available to you if you wanted to. So
yes, please, in case someone wants, I would like to watch it.
Yeah, because I created kind of a historical perspective on innovation, especially in the healthcare field. How things got started, from back from the penicillin days to now, and what was the major achievement by in the pharmaceutical field, and it ends with the invention of this new vaccine, mRNA vaccine, which essentially saved so many lives. I mean, that's how it ends. So innovation has the meaning to it. So yeah, Jennylyn, I will be happy to forward you my PDF, and from that you can capture lots of good things.
I am going to. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now, for someone who is passionate about innovation and who has such a solid background in pharmaceuticals and the medical field, how do you feel about cancer and Parkinson's and these diseases that have plagued the world for as far back as we know? We seem to have so much innovation, so much inventions. I mean, you and I are doing this. I'm sitting in your office with you while you're with me in mine, right? Look at all of this. How do you feel about the cures for those illnesses?
No, I think you hit it right on the mark here, because I was just 2 nights ago, I had a dinner with the former president of R&D of Pfizer, and we talked about exactly this very thing. So cancer, you talked about oncology, and I spoke to you earlier that mRNA technology would be utilized to have the therapies for cancer, which is almost going to be like giving you a cancer vaccine. Once you have it, then you don't have to at least worry about getting that kind of a cancer for which it has been prescribed to. So I think that's going to happen in the next, I would say, 5 years. You will have a mRNA cancer vaccine. I mean, this is something that I think will happen. And I'm not saying it will be available, but it will be in the pipeline. That's what I'm saying. So that's number one. Number two, you talked about Parkinson, but I think I would even talk about Alzheimer's, because Alzheimer's is one disease where just recently, 2 weeks ago, FDA approved Biogen's new drug.
Wow.
But that's a little bit controversial, and I don't want to get into controversy here, but I think the advisory committee, which is external to the FDA, recommended not approve it. FDA not approve it. However, FDA went ahead and approved it, and after that approval came through, 3 of the advisory board members resigned from the committee, saying we told not to approve, and they still approved it. And again, I mean, FDA has its own way of doing things, and that's fine. I'm not criticizing anybody here, but what I'm saying is there are always going to be these controversies, but what this leads to is other companies competing with the current therapies available, and make it even better, so that the controversies are gone, and then you end up with something which is going to work. So right now, as you probably know, I mean, Biogen is obviously one of the companies which has had the approval, and this is after 20 years that any drug for Alzheimer's has been approved. So now there is a little hope, but it's going to cost $56,000 per patient, and out of that $56,000 per year per patient cost, I mean, that affordability is a big question mark. So setting that aside for a minute, I think the innovation is still going on with some companies, and there are 2 companies right now. Lilly is one of the companies which is working on it, and they will have something for which is in phase 3. And again, this is all public information, so I'm just providing you that. So Lilly has a very good drug, and I hope that gets approved as well. I just was recently in Indianapolis, and I had a meeting with Lilly's CEO, David Rex. We didn't talk about Alzheimer's drug. The meeting was for another reason, but anyway, so that is something that one has to take a look at. And then there is another company called Alzion, which has an oral pill for Alzheimer's, which is going to make a huge difference in people who want something cheaper, better, faster. I mean that, and they're in phase 3, and the data so far, I mean, what is in the public domain is looking good, and
Wow.
that may be another drug, which is, people want simple pill. They don't want to go to a doctor's place and get injections and these very, very expensive monoclonal antibodies and costing you $56,000 a year for therapy. That's going to be a big question mark. But anyways, I mean, so Alzion has a new drug, and in fact, I mean, we are celebrating that next week at the Alzion facility, because I know the CEO. He came out of Pfizer and he established this company, and he has taken this drug. So this is what I call the this is the reward you get if you do a right innovation and you work your way in to see what's out there and how can I do better than that, how can I do better than this. So at least you have a pathway for showing your innovation, making strides and making good for what is needed, because this is unmet medical need. And if you have unmet medical need, you need something which works. And I'm hoping that this drug will go through the phase 3, will get approved, and things will work out for the humanity. And that's my hope.
This is fantastic news. I think it's terrific what you guys are doing. But when you think about medicine, you look at the world and you look at all the innovation in tech. I mean, it's just blowing our socks off. The other day I was filling out a questionnaire, and the amount of apps that are available, I wasn't even aware of half of them. And I marvel at the brilliance behind this.
Yes.
But
yes.
when it comes to medicine, it's not quite the same. And I am aware that it has a lot to do with the cost. It's a lot more in medicine. It's a lot more money is required because you have to do so many clinical trials.
Yeah.
And you have to get it right before the FDA approves it.
Exactly.
But I was thinking about this, and maybe you can shed some light on it for me. We've been plagued with the cancer and Alzheimer's, and like the diseases that you and I know of, that for generations have taken people out, and we have no cure. We have treatment, but not cure. Why do you think we were able to come up with this COVID vaccine so fast, and yet we are still sort of in an incubator with the cures for those diseases?
I mean, see, when it comes to infectious disease type of areas,
Yes.
you usually, let's take a course of antibiotics, it's very easy in terms of showing that it kills the bacteria or the virus by saying, okay, this is you put the petri dish with bacteria or virus, and you mix it with your agent, and then next day you see, oh my God, there is no bacteria remaining, everything is there. So with that, then you get to know, oh my God, this really works. So that kind of endpoint, or the biomarker, what I call it, is very clear. It's there or it's not there, right? I mean, it's yes or no. So when that kind of establishment of biomarker gets done quickly, that allows antibiotics to be on a fast track for development.
Got it.
Same thing is with the vaccine. When you do your phase 1, phase 2, you clearly know whether the patient or the subject, I mean, I shouldn't say patient at this point, because it is given to normal volunteers, and so what kind of biomarker reaction it is showing, whether it is showing any antibodies. And antibodies is a clear indicator that yes, there were no antibodies in the blood to begin with, and then when you injected with this, within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it had created antibodies, and those are measurable. And so that's what I call, the difference between, anti-infectives or antivirals. There is some way of measurement, and that allows one to go quickly. So it's not the same as with cancer, because cancer can reoccur, it can reemerge, and you may think you're taking it out, but then I mean, breast cancer, for example, lots of people say, oh, I mean, it's gone, but then after 6 months, it
Back again.
pops back. So same thing with the colon cancer, I mean, I know somebody who went through that recently, and then it was kind of a stage 4 colon cancer. They took the colon out, but then it emerged in the stomach, and now they are asking them that she has to get her stomach out. So I mean, so things of that nature are tough, and you cannot reach the end point.
Mhm.
So that's why it takes so many years, because they need to study it for so long, right? I mean, you need long-term data for that. Whereas for anti-infective or antibacterial, there is no long-term need for that kind of work. You either know you got it or you did not get it. It's yes or no, and that's what makes it easier. I shouldn't say easier, but that's what makes it crisp to say, yes, we got it. We got the efficacy. I mean, as soon as that Pfizer realized that the efficacy of this, after having done the phase 3, was 96.5%. I mean, that's like, oh my God, nobody expected that, but that's what it showed. And that's the clarity that allowed Pfizer and Moderna to introduce this mRNA vaccine.
So as someone who is so involved in the medical world with as much experience as you have, and you're clearly very brilliant, hats off to you. I really respect people such as yourself. Is it difficult for you now, because you are from India originally, aren't you?
Yep.
See what's happening in India now. I was doing some research on this, and I was following the news, and I know that we offered to send them some Pfizer vaccines, and I was told it needs to be kept so cold, under such cold freezing temperatures, that it was not successful helping the people in India. Is this true? Do you know?
I wouldn't give that as the reason why it was not given to India. And there were other things involved as well. I mean, so yeah, I mean, you are absolutely right. It requires minus 90-degree storage, and it requires, I mean, cold chain logistics. It requires all the things, especially if you had to reach the rural regions. I mean, you don't have that kind of a storage capability, yes, but I mean, so it could go to the big cities. I mean, big cities have all these things available, like we have it here in the US. And however, there were other reasons where Indian government initially said they would want to conduct some studies in Indian population, clinical studies in Indian population, to make sure it works the way it works in the US. And they also wanted to, I mean, so that would have taken another 6 months, right, to do the clinical studies. So that's number one. Second factor was indemnity, and Indian government was not ready to award indemnity to Pfizer. And again, I'm not talking on behalf of Pfizer here by any means, but I'm just saying, when they said that, that was a non-starter for Pfizer, saying, hey, if you are not going to offer us the indemnity, then why would I want to even, do it in India? Because again, it was not a financially viable deal anyways. I mean, it was almost like donating. Yet, if somebody was to fall sick after that and were to sue the company, if company didn't want to get those kinds of legal claims, because, first of all, I mean, if the favor is being done, you don't want the lawsuit to come after you. So,
of course.
so indemnity was one of the non-starters. So again, I don't want to get into that too much, but those are the two factors which caused, not having gone there yet.
I understand. So over the years of working in your field, what would you say? I mean, I know you've had tons of experiences, but what would you say was the one, or at least one, profound experience you've had doing this work that will stick with you for the rest of your life, that you want to make sure you impart upon mankind?
Yeah, so I think I really think I cannot put one thing in the front of others,
Right.
because it's all culmination of experience. But then one thing I learned is every year, I mean, I have now almost 40 years in the pharmaceutical research. Since I finished my doctorate, I have 40 years on top of that now. So with those 40 years of work, what I say is that, I learn every day. So learnings. And learning from the day one to all the learnings over the years, I got to know better and better. I got to do better and better. I could do it sooner. I could do it at a much quality way. And then the third thing was at lower cost, because cost of goods is important. So I could find the ways to manufacture certain things at cost-effective way. I could do certain things which are much quicker than doing it all different ways. And third is quality. Maintaining quality is very important. So I learned that from all the experience and some of the failures that happen during the research. I mean, not everything goes to market. Even if it goes to market, it may not be successful in the business viewpoint. And I'll give you one example, which is inhalable insulin that Pfizer worked on in the mid-90s, and I was part of the team. We called it, the product was called Exubera, which was inhalable insulin. Rather than injecting insulin,
Right.
you inhale through a device and it goes through your lungs. So it's a pulmonary delivery. So it goes through your lungs and it gets absorbed there, and then you don't have to take injections every day. So that was the device, and we got it approved through the FDA. And Pfizer worked with an external company which had the device and the systems patent on the device as well, called Inhale Therapeutics, was the company out of California. And we worked with them. We had very good success. We could do the generation 1, generation 2, generation 3 device. The device was so good that people loved it. And Pfizer thought this will be a $1 billion+ product. And then once the FDA approved it, Pfizer introduced it to the market. And then the first year revenue was kind of 50 million in the first year of revenue. And
Yeah.
Pfizer CEO said, let's pull the plug on this. This is not a business, doesn't make business sense, because we invested 1.5 billion on developing this. And now we are getting only 50 million a year. So see how long it will take to recoup the cost and all that. So he said, pull the plug. So we essentially, after having introduced it to the market, Exubera had to be pulled out because of the business reasons. So efficacy is one of the reasons, and side effect is another reason, but this is a totally business reason. So these are the learnings that you learn from working for that long. So I know, it's easier and better to kill a given compound in the research than try to do it up to this extent and then kill it, because then you have spent so much money. So it's all about learnings.
And I've interviewed someone who was one of the top professionals at Roche. He was on my show not so long, year before. He's actually in Switzerland now. And when I interviewed him, that's one of the things he said, you win some and you lose some. Yeah. But unfortunately, when you lose in pharma, you lose a lot, because the clinical trials, the cost is astronomical.
Yeah, it's like $10,000 a patient is the phase 3 cost these days, because you got so many patients you need, 30,000, 40,000. And putting 10,000 a patient, it goes through.
But it's so sad when something like this happens, because you pull something off the market that was clearly effective, because not a lot of people can handle being injected every day.
I know. But then they said, okay, out of 50 million in revenue, because of the costs involved in the manufacture and getting the device and everything done. Marketing. I mean, so the costs were, so margins were razor thin, and it didn't make sense. We didn't want to get into a product, which is not making too much money. And again, you look for, the stakeholders' benefit, right? The not only stakeholders in that regard, but also stockholders who want some return on their investment. So that was not the way to get the return on your investment.
Yeah, because my friend from Roche that I interviewed, the Swiss guy, he's now in charge of the largest VC in Europe, VC
Mhm.
sector in Europe. And I was asking him about, how do you know which is the right company to invest in that will bring you the rewards of your investment? And he says it's a total gamble. You just kind of go with the outcome of the research that you put into making your decision.
Sure.
But when I look at some like companies like Pfizer, for example, and you make this product like you had to pull off of the market.
Mhm.
When you were speaking, I was thinking about this. These pharmaceutical companies, they come up with amazing cures and products to help us, pills and injections and whatever, delivery systems.
Mhm.
But it costs them so much to produce these products that
Mhm.
by the time they get to the market, half of the consumers can't afford them. So, how do you think that divide can be bridged so that when you bring these amazing products to the market, it will serve the purpose for which all the work, the research and development has gone into, because it's affordable for the average person? How do you think we can bridge that divide?
No, I think it's not the question of bridging the divide here. I think one has to always, one in the sense the company has to always think that what is your cost of goods, and there is a rule of thumb, that your cost of goods has to be close to 15 to 20% range. In other words, your cost of manufacturing that product should be 15 cents on a dollar, essentially. And if that happens, then there is enough room for everybody afterwards in the supply chain to gain, because the selling price is $1 and your cost of manufacture is 15. So you got marketing costs, you got the costs which are for distribution, for packaging. I mean, there are lots of things involved after that. And also, it's all about even these companies like McKesson, they charge so much, and then you got pharmacists. I mean, so there are lots of stakeholders after that, and companies. So company has to make some money on that. Otherwise, all these billions of dollars, essentially spent, and not only the successful compounds, but the compounds which you worked on but never even made it to beyond phase 3, becomes a big spend. So that's why the model had changed over the years. It's more nowadays discovery is done by smaller biotech companies, and the companies now essentially license it out when they have gone through the phase 2B, which is what they call the proof of concept. Once POC is done, then the pharma companies can take on and do their phase 3 and make it happen. But I think lots of money was spent in the early discovery stages, where companies lost so much because every 1,000 compounds only one may make it. So you got to really prepare for failures. But then there were lots of learnings too. I mean, so learnings is a gain, because that's what I call the knowledge management, and you have to do it right. So.
And I strongly believe that the best teacher is experience. I live by that.
Yeah, true, very true.
When I first started producing this show 11 years ago, I think within my 3rd year, I was lucky to be invited into live surgery where they used the Vinci Robot
Oh, wow.
to remove a patient's colon.
Yep.
And I remember looking at it thinking, gosh, if I have to have surgery, that's what I want. It was so clean and so concise, and the doctor didn't have to stick his hand, which is so big, into this delicate part of the person's body. And I was so excited. I'm like, this is amazing. I love innovation.
Mhm.
But when I heard the cost, I go, why isn't everyone using this method for their surgery? And then I heard the cost. And the majority of the consumers cannot afford to pay for that.
Yeah.
It's better now, but I know enough to know that, especially with devices, so much money is burnt doing clinical trials that the cost, and by the time it's approved and gone through all of the processes and the marketing, that jacks the price up to where most people can't afford it.
Exactly, exactly right. No, you got it. I mean, it's all about costs, and sometimes, if you have a scale up which happens, and then there are lots of people who need the thing, then the cost may come down. But if it's an orphan drug, you got only limited number of patients, it's not going to recover any cost. So the companies say, what the heck, why are we working on it? So, but at the same time, we feel compelled to work on some orphan therapies. And although there are less number of patients, but if it can cure those patients, it's all about patients, right? So I've been working with a company right now and helping them with their NDA. They are also in the orphan drug type of a work,
Yes.
and it's called Wilson's disease. So, which is very, very, few people in the world have it or get it, but there is no therapy. But this drug offers them a great hope. So I'm working on it with them, and hoping that they will succeed and make it happen. So their NDA is being filed in January of 2022, which is in 6 months.
Well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for them, because when I went on that little tirade just now, I was going to ask you, do you feel that scientists and researchers come up with lots of cures sometimes or treatments, but they don't pursue it because in the end they fear that that will be a losing cause, because they won't be able to make the money that is required to spend on it? Have
I
you
think
experienced a lot of those?
lots of those, because, there is one thing you have to always remember. If there is any therapy currently available, and if it's therapy is available, then people wouldn't go after something like a Me Too drug or
Right.
therapy, because that's not needed.
Mhm.
Whereas certain, what we call the orphan diseases or rare diseases, FDA gives them concessions in terms of its speed of approval or whatever. And it's also, sometimes gets, subsidies and all that. So if that is available, and if FDA is giving you fast track designation for your orphan disease drug, that's an incentive, because it not only, I mean, you're not doing it for the sake of making money, but if you are making money on 10 other drugs, you may as well work on 2 or 3 drugs which are orphan disease areas, and helps the humanity. So I think not that it gets totally outcast, but I think companies do consider it, and they say, okay, what is involved, what is the cost of goods, and are we able to go through in a faster rate and whatnot. And if it has shown any sign of efficacy, then people say excited about it, and then they work on it, and things happen. So yes, I think to answer that question, there are other exceptions to that rule, but the rule of thumb is, if there is no current therapy, try to make it work, if you can. So that's the bottom line.
This is great. I am so happy. Can you believe we're almost out of 45 minutes?
Yes. Oh my God. I didn't even realize that. Wow.
What haven't I asked you that you want to make sure you leave with my viewers?
I think, what I want to say is, innovation is extremely important, and pay attention to innovation. I mean, I'm not saying just in the healthcare, but any other sectors. So what sector you are in, try to innovate something which will have a bigger impact in the coming years. And I think, and me being in healthcare, you saw the impact it has made in the global population. I mean, if this vaccine was not being done or worked upon, we would have been in the same stage as last year this time, when people were suffering, and the disease was like rampant everywhere, and the hospitals were saturated with people. So I think, remember, innovation is going to save the world, and I think no matter what discipline, what sector you are in, innovation is always good. Even take the automotive sector. I mean, the electric cars are here to stay, and that sector will grow. And I think Teslas of the world will grow. And I've been working with Lamborghini, by the way, and this morning I had a call with Lamborghini on creating electric vehicles, motorcycles, and I'm helping with that aspect as well in the innovation side. So Lamborghini is a good friend of mine, so I have been helping him.
I read that in your bio, but I'm like, we need 2 shows if we're going to share all these wonderful things you've done. There's no way to get it all in 30 minutes.
I know.
But
Yeah.
if you don't mind, I'd love to do a show with you on that at the right time.
Yeah, we can do it some other time. But I just had a chat with Lamborghini this morning, and we were talking about electric motorcycles and whatnot. So yeah, we can leave it at some other day. Yeah.
Exciting. Okay, and last question, and then I'll wrap it up. What do you want to say to the people who are afraid to take the COVID vaccine?
I think, you have to ask yourself, why are you afraid of? And if you look at the overall population, I mean, 70, 60 plus percentage overall in the US at least have taken it. And if so many people have taken it, obviously, there has to be something good in that. So remember that part, and then ask yourself, do you fall into these categories that I mentioned about, having immune compromised or having reaction to any of the formulations in the vaccine that caused you any reaction? So are you allergic to certain egg albumin, for example? I mean, I'm just giving you some points, but if you are not in that category of 1 or 2% people, I think it's in your benefit to get the vaccine and be safe, and it will not only help you, but it will also help the herd immunity, we call it, and that's good for the world. So I think that's my message. And I think I'm so happy, Jennylyn, that we could get this chance to talk to you, and I hope I provided with some good words here.
Dr. Jawadekar, I am so grateful. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name.
No, you did pretty well, very well. Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise. And I'm sure that anybody watching this show will have a much clearer understanding, at least about the reason that they should take the vaccine. And I thank you again. Thank you so much for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. When a conversation is all you need to be inspired and educated, and if you were not inspired by this gentleman, you were asleep. So thank you, and I'll see you next time with another fascinating guest. You are amazing. Thank you. I hope I asked.
Why are you afraid of? And if you look at the overall population, I mean, 70, 60 plus percentage overall in the US at least have taken it, and if so many people have taken it, obviously, there has to be something good in that. So remember that part, and then ask yourself, do you fall into these categories that I mentioned about, having immune compromised or having reaction to any of the formulations in the vaccine that caused you any reaction? So are you allergic to certain egg albumin, for example? I mean, I'm just giving you some points, but if you are not in that category of 1 or 2% people, I think it's in your benefit to get the vaccine and be safe, and it will not only help you, but it will also help the herd immunity, we call it, and that's good for the world. So I think that's my message. And I think I'm so happy, Jennylyn, that we could get this chance to talk to you, and I hope I provided with some good words here.
Dr. Jawadekar, I am so grateful. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name.
No, you did pretty well, very well. Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise. And I'm sure that anybody watching this show will have a much clearer understanding, at least about the reason that they should take the vaccine. And I thank you again. Thank you so much for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. When a conversation is all you need to be inspired and educated, and if you were not inspired by this gentleman, you were asleep. So thank you, and I'll see you next time with another fascinating guest.
Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.